Welcome back, everybody, to another weekly episode of the Rugby League off-season. Plenty happening. Myself, Joel from League of Inches, Isaac _Issa on Instagram, Facebook now as well. The Mr. Media, Journo, you name it, he's doing it. He has that many fingers in pies. We talk about Hindy and Fletch and the greats. He's basically following the greats at the moment because the fingers are very dirty.
Mate, you know what? I'm probably not there yet, but fingers crossed if all goes well. Hopefully we're all there soon. A lot going on, and it's been a very busy off-season. I'm absolutely blessed to be able to kind of report on it all, whether it's on social media, whether it's on here on the potty, whether it's on Zero Tackle, whatever it is. Truly blessed to be able to kind of crack into all of it. And look, maybe it's because this is my first off-season covering the NRL, but this off-season has been wild so far, not even from a transfer side of things, but just in general, the controversies, R360, it's just so much going on. And we are absolutely blessed to be able to cover it all because there's a lot to kind of get across this off-season.
You're spot on. There hasn't actually been that many signings yet, but there has been one big controversial moment that's happened over the last 24 hours, and that's got to do with Hello Sport versus Bloke in a Bar, the two famous podcasts. Who knows what's happening there, but do you have any inside mail for the punters and the dribblers out there about this little in-house potential fighting?
Unfortunately, as much as I like to view myself as an insider on all things rugby league, they haven't let me into that crevice yet. Now, Kempy, if you want to give me a call, I'm more than happy to come in and work as a mediator for you. Joel will come along as well. We'll just get the off-season on Bloke in a Bar. And while you're at it, if you can get us some of your sponsors as well, that would be absolutely terrific. But no, unfortunately, I don't have the inside scoop on what's going on there. But, give me a couple of days. I might see what I can dig up.
You're absolutely spot on, and a fantastic little segue quickly. If you are a business out there, you're listening to this, you own a business, small, large, medium, it is. We're happy to talk to you, happy to discuss what we can do moving forward. Please message the page, email. You can email me as well, joel@leagueofinches.com.au. Look, we're looking for a sponsor for this podcast, so if you can, please let us know. We will have a chat, see what we can do. We're hoping we can continue to run this through to next year as well. But Isaac's a busy man, and I need to start to deliver him some cash, Ola. So I need your help out there. So someone please help us. And we'll make sure we represent your business perfectly. Trust me. Let's get straight in talking about places that are potentially struggling, but that's not for financially. They're pretty good cash wise at the moment. They're striking some good deals, but they just can't sign anyone at the moment. That's the Bears. We actually spoke about this last week, and funnily enough, Isaac, I don't know about you, but I actually copped a fair few messages post this episode about the Bears situation, and a number of them, and it seemed like there were some really good sources in those messages who have said, basically, you boys were spot on. Funny enough, after our episode a few days later, a few of the other podcasts started to go and jump on and talk about the Bears and that as well. So there seems to be some things happening. I don't know what else you've heard post our episode last week and people reaching out to chat to you, but it doesn't seem all rosy, does it?
No, it doesn't. And look, I had a couple of people reach out to me as well, kind of speaking or kind of comparing it to the Dolphins situation. And I believe, and I don't have the stats or the records in front of me at the moment, going off just memory, but I believe the Bears have had a 6 month or something crazy like that jump on the Dolphins. I believe the Dolphins were officially announced maybe a month before free agency. If not, it was a very short time beforehand. And they had their first signing out, I believe it was November 22nd, 23rd, something like that. And, if you look at the date today of recording, it's November 20th. And look, we do have some news of signings, which we will get into, but absolutely not the start that you want to see from a franchise who has no official logo. They have an official page, I discovered, but the fact that I needed to dig deep to find that official page tells you what you need to know. And from what I've been told, they've somewhat discarded the original Bears, obviously North Sydney Bears, and they really are just aiming to build it from the ground up. And I believe you've heard the same, Joel. They are wanting to build it from the ground up, which is all, well and good, but it's really not working for them to start off this free agency. And if I'm a star player, is that really enticing me at the moment? There's no real, at the end of the day, I know money rules everything, but I think we know as well, pride in the jersey and the emblem and in the club is a major part of wanting to join a club. And if that club has no identity, it's very hard to want to play for them for the next 3 to 4 years. So I think that's kind of where they're struggling at the moment. I really hope they prove us wrong in the next 7 days, but it doesn't look likely at the moment.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because some of the things I'm hearing at the moment is there's still that tension between WA and the Bears in terms of North Sydney Bears and that whole west side versus east side type thing. And while that's going to happen, that sort of infighting and jealousy or whatever it's going to be, it's just nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to eventuate. It's just going to end up going basically down in the dust and basically become extinct at some point in time. They need to get on the same page. WA needs to swallow their pride a little bit and just be like, you know what, let's acknowledge the history behind the Bears. It's a really great history in terms of rugby league and in the NRL competition. So get on top of it, embrace it all, and watch it then start to flourish. There are so many old-fashioned Bears fans who just absolutely love the emblem, love what it's about, love the story behind them. Don't fight that. Take it on and off you go with it. Just please jump on with it, because I think at the end of the day, people can bad mouth it, but we do need a team over that side of the country to do well. And we really do. We need some good players over there. We need a great competition. It's going to take them so long because the juniors haven't really started yet. That's going to have to start all of that from basically scratch. It's a massive job. So they need all the help they can get. And doing this at the start and having this sort of infighting will not help the Bears one bit, and it's already putting them way behind where they should be. The players that they're after at the moment, Isaac, we've got a few that are sort of the marquee style sort of players that they're looking at, that they're linked to, and one of them that will cross off the list that I had on the list today when I was sending over the rundown was Beau Fermor, who has now re-signed with the Gold Coast Titans until 2029. That was a huge deal.
Yeah, that was major. I was, and for those of you who have me on socials, I don't believe I got to getting it up on socials. That's because I was working for Zero Tackle as soon as it dropped. So if you want my insight on it, head over to zerotackle.com.au. I've broken down that, or, work comes first, had to get that out. So yeah, absolutely wild. 2029 for Beau Fermor, who is a star of our game. Don't get me wrong. But I think that I would have thought that they wanted to be a little bit more cautious with Fermor, especially considering his history and whatnot. In saying that, though, he's been a true servant of the club, and they're hoping to make him a one-club man by the time he retires. I believe he got his Maroons call up this year. It was his Maroons debut. An absolute, it's a good knock, especially when you consider the fact that Josh Hannay just got there. He's obviously seen some terrific stuff from Beau Fermor. And look, he's potentially, I know Tino's a captain at the moment, but if Tino heads off, we could see Beau Fermor go into that position. And I honestly think that's probably likely. It's a huge knock. And I think it's very exciting for Titans fans who probably are waiting on the star re-signings of Jaden Campbell, Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, guys like that. But this is a signing that makes or breaks the culture of your club, and I'm absolutely stoked that he's staying there. It sucks for Bears. That would have been a real Felice Kafusi to Dolphins type signing, but unfortunately, they've missed out on one there. They swung and missed.
Yeah, this is massive for the Titans. I'm a huge Beau Fermor fan, and I remember about 6 weeks ago, he was linked to potentially leaving the club, and there was clubs like the Eels that were rumored to be interested. And as a fan of the Eels, I was all for it. I was like, please come, please. But I'm so big on Beau Fermor. I think the best is ahead of him still as well. Like you said, he's just gotten the confidence for Origin this year as well. Like, that's a massive get for the Titans to have that sort of a caliber of player go, yep, I want to be here, and I don't want to just test to see what Hannay's era starts like. I actually want to be here for the long term. That's a massive, massive get for the Titans. But on some other players for the Bears side of things, Jaden Campbell still, there was talk early this week that the Titans have basically, the deal was done. And then all of a sudden the Bears came back and said, hang on, hold my beer, because we actually want to give you and make you one of the highest paid players in the game, which it's a crazy deal. I've had a number of conversations with some people about this deal, and what I've sort of tried to tell them all is to just be wary, because the Bears need some of these signings. They need one or two of these bigger fish to then lure others. So they need to give some of these guys a couple of 100,000 more than what they'd get at other NRL clubs. They're in a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to this stuff. So this saying $6 million over 5 years, so $1.2 million a year for Jaden Campbell, really at another club, you'd probably say that would be about $9,950. But this is the Bears we're talking about. They've got to land someone, and they've potentially targeted Jaden Campbell. I would love to get your thoughts about this one, because firstly about where you'd play him, because I've got him probably as a fullback. I actually think his best position is fullback still.
There's a lot of players who have very strong opinions on where they should play. For example, I'll give you Latrell Mitchell, who I think should be an out-and-out center. I've got I've got guys like Matt Burton, who again, like I've got a specific, a lot of people going iffing and ahhing, and I've got specific position that I'd like him in. Another one's AJ Brimson. He is his teammate, who I see as an out-and-out fullback. Jaden Campbell's a tricky one. I really don't mind him as a halfback, not because I think he's there yet, but I think he does have the potential. At the same time, he's a brilliant fullback. But, obviously at the Titans, you've got Keanu Kinney, who I probably got as a top 5 fullback at the moment, top 6. Like, I've got him really high. At the Bears, obviously, he'd have first pick. I guess you probably would chuck him over at fullback. I don't mind him as a halfback, though. And I will say, like, from, conversations with Jaden Campbell and interactions with him, he seems like a really great guy, a real down-to-earth guy, and the type of guy that you want to have at your club. He's probably the type of guy that you'd want to build around. And I do understand the $6 million price tag if you are the Perth Bears. But I will say, and I guess I use them as an example because they're the most recent and the first time that we've seen an expansion club in a long time. But the Dolphins didn't land their star guy and brought in a young guy in Isaiah Katoa. Now, I know that you've obviously got a young star like Kobe Black, who is now obviously signed with the Raiders, but if you could have gone hard on a Kobe Black as your 7 and gone hard on a Chevy Stewart as your fullback, again, it wouldn't have cost you a lot of money, but to get these young guys in your club and give them that opportunity, I much would have preferred that than you giving $6 million to Jaden Campbell, who is, by all accounts, he's a superstar of our game. He's not just a star, he's a superstar. But I think that if you're the Perth Bears, manage your cap correctly, bring in a Kobe Black as your halfback, you bring in a Chevy Stewart as your fullback. If you're going to throw the checkbook at someone, throw it at Jai Gray. Like, these are the guys I'd say that you're chucking your money at. Tyron Wishart, another one. But giving $6 million, which is a massive chunk of your cap, to Jaden Campbell, who is a star of our game, but hasn't delivered in the way that maybe a Nathan Cleary has, or a Reece Walsh has, or a Payne Haas. That does make me a little bit iffy. Now, if another club offered him $6 million, I'd probably prefer it a little bit more because they're an established club. But for the Perth Bears, I feel like you're putting all your eggs into a basket when you don't know what the rest of the farm's going to look like. So it's a real interesting one there for the Perth Bears.
Just a quick one on the Titans as well, because they're obviously wanting to keep Jaden Campbell. I've said for so long now that these 3-2 is just not working for them, and they do need to at some point make a very hard decision. Now, I absolutely love Jaden Campbell as a player. And I agree with you. I think the world's his oyster, and I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. I think that's to come for sure. And whoever he does end up with will have an absolute gem of a player. But I also think in a way this could be a good thing for the Titans, because if he ends up leaving, let's say, hypothetically, it allows them to start to play around much better with their cap and their roster, and fixing this sort of issue that they've got with Brimson and Keeney, who are both already signed for longer term deals. There's part of me that's thinking, you know what, this could help the Titans in the weirdest way possible. This could actually help him if he does end up leaving, and they can finally get over this 3-2 headache that continues to arise for him.
The issue I see with the Gold Coast Titans, and I agree with you completely in the 3-2 thing, because it is an issue and it has been for years. But the odd one out to me isn't Jaden Campbell, it's AJ Brimson, who I think the world of him as a player. I think he's a terrific player, but he doesn't fit in this side. And you see team player swaps all the time. They should have swapped AJ Brimson for a star player, a star forward, a star outside back years ago. At the end of the day, while Jaden Campbell is obviously the one who could potentially be on the outer now, he is the one that can play halfback. You've got Keanu Kinney, who can play fullback and is a brilliant fullback, a better fullback, the best fullback out of all three, I'll argue. AJ Brimson is a fullback out and out, but if you sent him over to a club like the Dragons, who would desperately, they would jump at getting an AJ Brimson at their club and bring over a young star from the Dragons. I know they don't have many, but, bringing over a young star from the Dragons, I would absolutely love that for their club. Like, they've got Jacob Little over there, do a player swap there. That would work out for both sides. But the way that they've held on to AJ Brimson has almost been, it's been telling of what their management and like their roster management and structure has been for the last, how long have we known the Titans? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's been like that for a long time. And it's real disappointing because they have had an opportunity to sort this out for a long time. I guess now Jaden Campbell could be the one on the way out. But again, I don't think that solves much of an issue, because where are you putting AJ Brimson then? His best position is still at fullback. I get you can play him in the halves, but I much prefer Jaden Campbell in the halves than I do AJ Brimson.
Yeah, absolutely. More on the Titans over the next couple of weeks, guys. I feel like they're not going to go away. There's a few, obviously, stories that are in the background. Jaden Campbell, Tino, just to name a couple. There'll be a number of avenues for us to come back and regurgitate these sorts of stories and probably put a bit more detail into them, more confirmed details. Zach Lomax, the Eels have released and / quit the Eels, wherever you want to look at it, however you want to see it. That's what's happened. I think it's been a Lomax has gone to the club saying, I want to do this. And then the club's gone, yep, all right, no worries. You're on about 700K, the winger. If you don't want to be here, Riles is all about buying into the culture. They've basically just said, see you later type thing. Yeah. So it's all confirmed now. It looks like it's going to be R360, basically. And funny enough, his manager, Clinton Szykovsky, has come out over the last 24 hours and said he's rubbed his hands and cut ties and said, I'm not dealing with the R360 side of it, which I find a bit funny. I'm not buying it, if I'm going to be brutally honest. I think it's just it's a nice media ploy. I'm not entirely buying it. There's some things out there that few of us know about that you can just get by type thing. But it's I'm interested to see now, because we spoke about this last week, Isaac, and even more so now, the Eels war chest has just increased by 700 odd K, because I'm imagining they basically have released like Zach Lomax and said, we're not paying you a cent. You want to go, see you later. And I'm very, very interested now to see what happens here, because there's some big fish out there. And as a fan, we haven't signed a big fish for a while. I'm keen to see what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had a lot of Eels fans message me over the last few days. So Lomax is gone. Who's coming in? And look, as excited as I would be to kind of announce that, unfortunately, there's not a ton of movement at the moment. Now, the elephant in the room, Keon Kalamatangi, he's obviously at the top of your radar, which, as he should be, I think he's one of the best forwards in the comp. The Zach Lomax leaving, if we're going to kind of focus on that, it was always in due time. I believe I mentioned a couple weeks ago that Zach Lomax had signed a non-disclosure agreement a couple months ago now. This has been in the works for months. So this isn't a surprise by any means. They just wanted to kind of wait until the best time to let him go. But by all accounts, he signed a non-disclosure agreement with R360 quite a long time ago. So in saying that, his manager has now... Oh, yeah, continue.
Just quickly on that, because that disclosure, like obviously Clinton Szykovsky was his manager at that time and things like that. That's why for me, I just don't buy all this, because it's very clear that things have been done before this whole public statement from Clinton. So I just don't buy it. And I think that if Zach Lomax does end up signing, I imagine the NRL will be coming down hard on Clinton Szykovsky as well.
So, and that's totally valid. And I've had a lot of people kind of confused about that as well. So the way that that would kind of shape out is, so when he had signed the NDA and potentially signed with R360, even if Clinton had been a part of that process. It was before the NRL had put out any policy about a 10-year ban. So if he had done it before then, he can't come under any kind of punishment or talking to, because he wasn't aware of the policy. So since then, though, if the papers or documents say that, it was signed post that policy kind of being laid down by Peter V'landys, that's a different story. And then he can be banned for the next 10 years. But if he had orchestrated the deal beforehand, essentially, there's not too much the NRL can do because he wasn't a part of, he wasn't aware of the policies that were put forward before that.
Interesting times ahead, and by all reports, there's a few more to be released over the next few days, guys. So again, just keep on top of the social media pages, and we'll keep you informed there. This is really unfortunate news, and it's now been a couple of days, but it just sucks. It just leaves a bit of an empty feeling inside. But the Storm have confirmed the worst news possible at the moment, that Eli Katoa won't be playing in or taking any part of the 2026 season. So that's a real shame. I think we've all voiced how poor this whole situation has been handled. This just basically echoes and guarantees what everyone's been saying really about the situation. And I hope that the NRL deal with this the appropriate ways. There's got to be people held accountable. That is for sure about this. And we've now lost a premium player of our game who's at almost who's still improving. He's not even at the pinnacle of his game yet. And it's shattering, isn't it, Isaac? When I seen this the other day, knowing full well it was probably more than likely going to happen anyway, reading it, I just felt like I'm not even a Storm fan. I'm just a general rugby league fan. I just went, man, this sucks. Like it's just not.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those things where I guess the whole kind of rugby league community kind of comes together, and it was a real shame. It was a real shame because obviously, as many know, it very well could have been prevented from the get-go. We don't even know if he may play ever again. Like that's still up in the air. I think the biggest kind of talking point moving forward, we all know how devastating this is. The biggest talking point moving forward now is the NRL's investigation that they conducted, and they have concluded they've collated their findings on the whole investigation on how this happened, why this happened. They have withheld that information out of respect for Katoa. They've been waiting for him to return to Melbourne. He has now. But I believe that we will get that news in the next week or so. A major shame. I don't really know where the NRL kind of starts with kind of handing down the punishment, where that kind of is directed. I'll leave that kind of to the people in charge. But it's a real shame. I guess that, the fact that we don't see this happen very often in a contact sport should tell you just how devastating it is and how unnecessary it was. And it also kind of, I know a lot of people haven't looked at it from this perspective, but it kind of, you almost give an applause to the medical staff and teams of, the NRL and the wider audience who do kind of step in and prevent these things and look after our players. Because the fact that this very rarely happens in such a heavy contact sport, we really do have some really awesome medical staff across the league. Unfortunately, that medical staff wasn't there that day. And that is what has, resulted in one of the most devastating things, probably since Corey Hawera and Ira, had a seizure on the field a few years ago. And even that was handled, as well as possible. So it's a real shame that this has happened. And hopefully I'm praying that we see him in 2027 because, man, like he's top 5 player in the NRL right now, like the lowest top 10. Like he is the best back row in the comp by a landslide, really. And as he said, we haven't seen him at his best. So I really hope we get to see him, and I hope this hasn't shaken his confidence either.
Yeah, it just reiterates as well that we want to make sure that this is all handled appropriately moving forward, and it just shows you how when it does go wrong and it's really bad. Like we don't want to see this sort of stuff ever again. And we want to make sure that the NRL enforce ways to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So, and just want to quickly shout out to the Storm as well, because I think they've been on top of everything so far with what's going on here and their updates and being on the front foot with everything. It's a very tough time for them as well. Not just the fact of the caring for their player, the fact that they have lost now a really gun player in their roster who was a vital cog in their armor for a premiership tilt for next year. So after just losing Pezzett, Pappy as well, like and Nelson. It's not ideal for them at all. So, but they've been upfront every single time. They're not trying to hide anything. They're trying to tell everyone what their plans are moving forward. Applaud the Storm for everything they're doing there. That's for sure.
And despite all these player losses, they're still going to finish in the top 4. So
there you go. That's the headline grabber for this week's episode. Will the Storm be a top 4 side still? Isaac thinks so. The NRL, this is news that came out late last week, so they'd love to time this just after our podcast, unfortunately. But they want to go to a 19-week competition by 2032, which is the plan to have a 20-team comp by then. I'm predicting that'll be probably a second New Zealand side. They also want to do standalone Origin football, and they want to expand on the international window, which it currently is at. I'm guessing that means potentially a second window. The last bit to this was a conference system as well they're looking into. Now, I love all of it apart from the conference side of it. One thing I love about our competition is that we get to see our side versus everyone in the competition each year. I don't want that to really change. I'd rather just see each team play everyone once, 19 rounds, off you go. I don't want to see that conference system in place. I think we sometimes go and try and mirror the US too much and what they do and how their sporting lifestyle is. Let's just keep it to a 20-team, 19-round comp. The rest of it, though, Isaac, I absolutely love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're going to make changes to how the ladder and how the teams are kind of orchestrated, I would much rather see them go to a 10-team finals as opposed to 8-team, have a top 10. If you're going to have a 20-team comp, I think I'd much prefer that than them implementing conferences, only because I feel like while conferences, I really do like them in certain sports, it does somewhat diminish the amount of quality that we see in the game. So if you look at it at a competition like the NBA, for example, the Western Conference is just so much more dominant than the Eastern Conference, and there's not much you can really do, and it results in a lot lower quality matches. And I think that's what would happen in the NRL as well. As for the 19-week, kind of proposal, I love it. I think that the regular season is way too long right now. It's way too long. 27 rounds. I get it. We get 3 buys, but honestly, I'm quite ready for it to be reduced. I'd love if it was reduced in 2026. But yeah, I'm all for it. And I love the changes. I know a lot of footy fans don't like change, but honestly, I can't say I've had too many gripes with the changes that Volandis and Abdo have put in over the last few years. So I'm all for it at the moment, to be honest.
And I think the best thing about this is a shorter competition reduces the risk of injuries and things like that. So we're more likely to also have our star players playing in the international calendars and the international games, which I'm all for. Like, you won't see these players out because they've got a little niggle or something like that. You'll be seeing players who want to actually play and they go, "Yep, no, I'm sweet. Let's go. Let's push on and get it done," which I absolutely love, and I think we should be all for. Mailbag time, mate. What do you got for us this week? Got a couple of little stories lurking around.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go to the biggest one that we've got. We obviously had a few exclusives this week, but let's go for the biggest one. I think that a lot of Cowboys fans didn't want me to bring up. Now, I reported earlier in the week. It's since been reported by a few other outlets as well. Murray Tuolangi has been linked with an exit from the North Queensland Cowboys. A major blow to what the Cowboys are doing over there. They love him. Now, I understand he is currently injured. They haven't specified the duration of what his rehab process will look like. But at the end of the day, he's a core piece of their back line. He's a Maroon star as well. However, it's been, whispers. I've had a few people reach out to me. A few sources let me know that he is likely heading off. And I've had a few sources very confident that he will be signing with the St. George Illawarra Dragons. I'd expect that move to be announced probably over the next month. I don't think they'll drag it out too long. But from the sounds of it, he is finished over at the Cowboys and will be heading over to the Dragons in 2027.
So that's immediately, isn't it? That's to play next year, is it?
It'll be for 2027. So he'll, I believe he's likely going to be injured most of next year, and there's it's not set in stone that he will be joining the Dragons. However, sources close to the Dragons and to Tuolangi's camp are very confident that he will be heading over there. Whether he heads over there or not, one thing is pretty clear: he's likely not going to be a Cowboy for much longer.
Tell you what, it's been a massive few weeks because I completely forgot he got injured. I had to
Yeah.
go back and double check what he actually did to himself because when you said that, I was like, hang on a second, did he? I was like, oh, wait, yeah, he did. I've got to go back
There's
and have a
concerns.
look.
I believe there's concerns about an ACL, but again, I don't have the exact injury in front of me. I don't even think they've announced what the exact injury is, so don't quote me on that. But I believe there's fears of an ACL.
Has Brayton Astor reached out and have you reconciled your relationship yet?
Unfortunately, Braithen Astor has not reached out to me. Again, maybe he doesn't watch the potty, which I'd be surprised. But if he doesn't watch the potty, I'd be shocked. But he hasn't reached out to me. But look, it's all water under the bridge. I've had a few beers in Bali, and I've probably sent some messages that I probably shouldn't have sent. So I get it, Braith. I saw his dump. He popped up a dump after his Bali trip, and he had some really nice photos on there. And it looks like he had a really great time. So water under the bridge. I'm a huge fan of Braithen Astor. I love him and I love what he does for the game. And I hope that he doesn't think I'm clickbait anymore. I hope that I've popped out a few nice stories for him this week that he's a bit more accepting of. But mate, Braithen Astor, whenever you want to hit me up, I am here. I'm ready to work with you.
All right, you suck up. Well, you might be saying something right now that might get to him a little bit because Cameron Munster, there's been some reports today about R360 starting to circle.
Yeah, so and look, I would love a day where I pop out a story that I don't put R360, but unfortunately that day hasn't come for a few months now. Rugby 360 have made a formal approach to Cameron Munster, a 1.5 million per season deal. I'm not too sure on the length of the deal, but apparently reportedly they have reached out to him, made that formal offer. And look, he hasn't responded to it yet, but in saying that, he has made it very clear that he's keen to play overseas at some point in his career. He spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. He's open to a potential Super League switch. And look, if you're choosing between Super League and R360, where you're going to be making triple the amount of money, I'll probably go to R360. But he hasn't responded to it yet. But I expect that in the first kind of week or two of their announcements are set to begin next week with their signings. I'm sure we'll get a little bit more clarity on that. But for now, they've approached him with that 1.5 mil per season.
Tell you what, that'd be massive for the Storm to lose him as well. That would be absolutely huge. Just the last little thing I want to add, are you buying this whole Payne Haas turns down R360 talk?
I'm buying the fact that he's worried about the 10-year ban because look, by all accounts, like similar to what the Perth Bears situation, we don't have much commercial evidence of what R360 is really going to be. And look, the reason that R360 approached him with that upfront $3 million payment is because of his concerns about, there not being that commercial stability over at the competition. So look, it makes sense to me. Whether I'm fully buying that he has completely shunned the league, I don't think he has. But look, by all accounts, by all reports, he has kind of informed people around him that his preference is probably to stay in Brisbane. I don't think there's any doubt that he would rather stay with the Broncos. I think at this point, though, you're looking at generational money being handed to you, and sometimes you got to look at what's best for your future and for your family's future as well. But look, by all accounts, I believe that at the moment he's a little bit concerned about the validity and the stability of this new competition.
Yeah, I just have this weird feeling he's still going. I really do. I have this sick feeling in my stomach because I don't want him going. I want him to stay in the game, and I want to see, because for a Blues point of view, to lose him, Lomax in the same year, Pappy, who would have been great depth for if we ever needed him, which it doesn't really matter that much now, but that's just that's a big hit to the heart for the Blues. That's a couple of really big losses as well, which will hurt for next year, that's for sure. So Payne, please. Stay ahead, stay along and win the World Cup for Samoa next year. If anything's going to drive you, go another year at least and get that World Cup done and dusted for Samoa.
Absolutely. Actually, quick question for while we're talking about the Blues. Zach Lomax obviously out of the NRL. Who replaces him over at the Blues?
Carraz.
Yep, I probably got Carraz as well.
Absolutely, Jacob Carraz. So hopefully that's he absolutely deserves it. Hopefully his body's good for him next year, and by that time of the year, he's ripping, raring to go. But in saying that as well, the incumbent now Australian winger Zach Adokar would probably be a switch of sides for him, and Mark Nawaqanitawase are both still here as well. So it'd be hard to palm either of those off, but I think all three, I would not complain about being there. I think, if anything, I got Mark probably below both the other two, and then I'd probably have Adokar or Karaz ahead of him, just because I think Mark's got a few mistakes still in his game that will really be punished at Origin level. So I'm a bit more safe with the other two.
Absolutely. I'm probably with you. I've either got Josh Adokar or Jacob Kraz. I would go with Mark if there were years, to follow that he could improve, but unfortunately he is out after next year. Is it worth kind of making that risk? Josh Adokar is probably your safest bet, but Jacob Kraz, if he can take another leave like he did last year, I don't think that you can keep him out of the side.
Yeah, absolutely. That is all we've got time for tonight, guys. So just a quick update on the old social media challenge we had last week. So we smashed Isaac's one inside a week. I actually went pretty good this week. That you guys are starting to get around me, which I really appreciate. I've still got about 300, just over 300 to go. So I reckon over the next week or so, by the time we finish this podcast in 2 weeks for a little break, I've got no doubt we'll hit that. So thank you very much for the support. Keep it going. And yeah, just awesome to see. But thank you, Isaac. Go and work your other 2 or 3 jobs you've got, and get some sleep in the meantime as well.
Absolutely. Look, off season never sleeps, but I hope I get some rest tonight. Thank you so much as always for having me on, and let's look forward to another big week in the off season.
Perfect. Hit that like, subscribe button, and like and subscribe to both pages as well. We'll see you all again next week. Thank you and goodbye.